Welcome to episode 75 of the Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast. I am one of your two co-hosts, Stephen Rothberg. I'm the founder of College Recruiter job search site. My other co-host, Peter Zollman of the AIM Group, is unavailable to join us today. I think he's at 35,000 feet someplace on his way back to sunny and steamy Florida. But I am super stoked to have as a guest today my longtime friend, Chris Campbell from Reticular Media. Chris, welcome to the Inside Job Boards podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So before we get started into the meat of the discussion, basically email marketing for job boards and recruitment marketplaces, tell people a little bit about your background, especially the LinkedIn URL that you managed to tag.
I've been in the industry for, I guess, since 2004. I was one of the early guys over at Indeed, and I think it was the first Indeed employee to have a LinkedIn profile. So that is why it's the LinkedIn /Indeed.
And you were employee number what there?
I'm not certain, probably 5. But definitely on the biz dev side, one of the earliest.
Yeah, you were like Indeed sales.
Yes, I was the first full-time that area.
That's awesome. So you left Indeed. Results generation, I think you were there.
I was there for a while, and then in 2019 started Reticular.
Okay, so 5 years ago. And tell people who might not be familiar with Reticular Media, kind of high level. What the hell do you guys do?
We're a job search network. We have quite a few different domains, but I mean the gist of it is we're able to deliver quality candidates to job sites, and we do that through email. I think that's what really separates us from some other sources, is that 99.9% of our traffic comes from job alerts.
Okay. And so interesting that you said that the 99.9. I thought it was 100%.
It pretty much is 100%. Yeah.
Rounding.
Occasionally, someone will find their way to our sites.
Like,
but
somebody like literally they walks up and knocks on your door. It's like, can I help? Can you help me find a job? You're not going to say no.
Exactly.
So okay. So basically, you're doing emailed job match alerts, right?
Yes.
If a job board like a College Recruiter, an aggregator, some other niche site, if they are not doing job match alerts, is that where you come in? Do you also come in if they also have their own?
It's typically most of our partners are mailing on their own.
Okay.
But it's just the reality is that we're all trying to help people find employment. I mean, that's the core of what we're trying to do. And even if, especially if it's a smaller niche board, we're typically going to be better at getting inboxed and delivering to that user than if they do it in-house. So it's an additional way for job sites to earn additional revenue while providing a good experience for their users and hopefully helping the candidate find a position.
Very cool. So the job board basically licenses their job seeker list to you, whichever portion of that, all of it or part of it, to you that they want, and then you email those candidates under one of your domains.
Your domains, that's correct. So it needs to be real time, typically via API. If a job seeker registers on job board XYZ, then they immediately that user is sent to us, and then we mail them a targeted job alert.
Cool.
That these site jobs in this location. And our algorithm does. We have a great team. They've built a wonderful algorithm that does a good job of matching the right alert to that user, that candidate.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. So when we were talking about, what you and I should talk about in this episode, obviously it had to be about email marketing, job match alerts specifically, and we decided that you would share 3 tips. And then once we kind of got into it, it's actually 4. So we're going to call the 4 tips. Why don't we start with list hygiene? To successfully, for a job board to successfully get its job match alert emails into the candidate's inbox, get them opened, get the candidates to click on them, get them to apply to a job.
Yeah.
What is that all about?
Well, I mean, basically, it's what it sounds like. It's cleaning up your data. We actually outsource it. It's something you can do in-house, but it's extremely time-consuming. And there's some fantastic companies out there. That's all they do. And I mean, you can Google them, just type in list hygiene, and you'll see a list. And we work with a few, and they all do a good job. And the whole purpose is you basically want to make sure that this is a real email that you're mailing, and that that's it. It's just cleaning up your list. Because that leads to some additional things that we had discussed. So you have to make sure that you're building a reputation with the email service providers, and you want to have a good open rate, delivery rate, et cetera. And so it's all interconnected. So list hygiene is just it's what it says. It's cleaning up your list and making sure that you're mailing real users, real email addresses.
Right. So you're not sending emails to people who maybe used to have that email address but closed it.
Things along those lines.
Like an old AOL address, or somebody who signs up with a bogus.
Yes, which happens often.
Yeah.
And so these companies do a good job of just scrubbing it, cleaning that list up for you.
Cool. Tip number 2, mailing patterns. Now, we're not talking mailing as in our gender. We're actually trying to be productive here, Stephen. So tell me what you mean by mailing patterns.
Well, it's mailing frequency. It's what it really comes down to. If you have a user, typically what we have found is that you have a short window, especially for a job seeker, that they are actively looking. And during that window, they are much more likely to engage. So if you have an active job seeker, maybe it's okay to mail them in the morning and then mail them another list in the evening, because that's what they're looking for. And the reality is, if they're on your site, they're signing up for alerts, and they're on another site.
Absolutely.
They're aggressively looking at all these different boards. And they are much more inclined to open the email, engage, wind up back on your site, clicking on jobs, and hopefully, finding that ideal position through your particular board. Now, with that, that doesn't necessarily mean that you want to. So you start seeing that user slowly disengage. That doesn't mean that you have to completely disregard that candidate user, but maybe just once a month you want to reach out and say, "Hey, are you still interested in another type job? Here's something that might be of interest to you." So it's the mailing frequency is what I like to call it. But I mean, it comes down to an active user, engage with them. And then over time, knowing that line between, let's not be annoying or inundate them with alerts they don't want, but just check in.
Yeah. Nobody, it doesn't help. It's very counterproductive to be slamming people with emails that there's a cost to it. There's a brand reputation. They start marking them as spam.
Exactly. And that's the big thing, because you have to maintain a certain level of deliverability and open rate for these ESPs to be inboxed. And so you have to be extremely cautious in how you go about engaging with that user.
Cool. So speaking of engagement, sort of the third tip or pillar, and earlier when you and I were talking, you talked about how they're all intertwined. Right?
Yes.
If you do one of these really well and the other two really poorly, it's not going to help. You have to do them all three of them pretty well. But the third one that you talked about was content testing. To me, that's the most obvious. If I'm an engineer in Dallas, I don't want to see nursing jobs in, Moscow. Is that where
that's
that
part of it? You have to be targeted in your alerts, and you want, again, that comes back to the user experience. But exactly what you said, you want targeted alerts that cater to that specific job seeker's wants and needs. But also, when I say content testing, I mean the subject line. So the subject line of your email, the format of your email. This is something that I see a lot of sites that I think set it and forget it, but that doesn't really work. Like you have to constantly be evolving, adjusting, uh, and updating the formats and keep trying different things. And just because it worked, we more often than not, we find things we test don't work, but it's something that we're always trying to improve. We're trying to cater to that user and make sure that, we're catching their eye and we're delivering them exactly what they're looking for.
Oh, I can just imagine how interesting it would be to be a fly on the wall when your team is talking about things like, I just had a great new idea for a subject line, the formatting, the layout. And it's like, that's great. Everybody's in agreement. Let's test this. And the test
and then
comes
it's total
back,
garbage and it doesn't work. And we're like,
which like a typical salesperson is going to be, that's okay, right? Getting a no is one step closer to getting a yes. So it's a bummer that the test didn't work, but now you've ruled out that possibility and you've kind of narrowed. Now, subject lines and the layout, Chris, when you guys are emailing, millions of candidates, does everybody essentially get the same subject line, the same layout, or is it highly customized, kind of almost
it's
like
customized.
at the user
it's
level?
Automated. Yeah, it's automated to customize the alerts, customized at the user level.
Wow.
So our system, if you're looking for a sales job, you're looking for a marketing job, you're looking for a nursing job, we know that, and it's it's going to adjust based on your location, your job title, et cetera.
Wow. That is so far beyond the capability of most niche sites to be slicing and dicing and sending out different.
Well, most niche sites have the advantage of typically they're in a certain range of maybe they're only doing sales jobs or they're only doing marketing jobs, and those are the type of individuals there. So it can be, I don't expect a small job board to be as granular as we are, but they still, it can be automated to cater to the individual.
Cool. Bonus question. I think we definitely have time for like a quick hit here. The ESP, the email service provider requirements. My impression of what you want to talk about here is how important Gmail is, but that Hotmail, AOL,
they're all
Yahoo,
important.
they're all important. They're all different.
But Gmail is it's crucial to stay up to date on the delivery requirements for Gmail. I mean, it's the others matter, but the vast majority of the users that we see are Gmail, and Gmail is quite particular on their requirements, open rate, deliverability rate, et cetera, for being inboxed. And to be successful, you have to be inboxed. So that's all the other stuff comes back to it. For the list hygiene is important for Gmail. Testing the content to make sure that you get inbox. Mailing frequency to make sure that the users are opening and engaging, because if you overdo it, they're not. Gmail's going to see that. And then you could be sent to Gmail purgatory, which you do not want to wind up in. So it's all relevant to getting inboxed. And I mean, that's the first most important step, because if you don't get inboxed, none of the other stuff matters.
Right. Yeah. Your conversion rate after that is going to be zero, no matter what,
right.
No matter how good any of the other stuff is. Now, one of the things that I was curious about, I remember months ago when Google announced some of these coming changes to Gmail for bulk commercial senders, which Reticular Media is. Lots of job boards are also. And there was something about you had to have like a one-click unsubscribe, which I remember reading that and thinking, no doubt, a lot of job boards are already doing that with their mailing systems, but I know some aren't. Like, in order to stop receiving alerts, you've got to click, log into your account, go over to your manage account settings page, go over to email, it's 1,847 steps to check the unsubscribe box. Gmail's like, no.
But you want to make it as easy as possible for that individual as well. Otherwise, it's really easy to hit spam.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. So by making it we were already doing that for that same reason. We want that open rate, that deliverability, and you do not want users to start clicking spam. So making it as easy to unsubscribe as possible allows Gmail, Google to know, hey, they're no longer interested, but this was a legitimate alert at one point.
So the job boards that are still sending out alerts like they were, say, 3 years ago with no unsubscribe in the email, my guess is they've seen a massive drop off. in opens? Because they're probably just going into spam now.
I mean, I don't know to the extent that Google's actually enforcing at this point, but I would just highly recommend that they take a look and try to follow as close as possible those rules and guidelines.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Chris, this has been great. Thank you so much for the 3 tips plus a bonus.
Thank you for having me.
And for people who want to reach out to you, your LinkedIn URL. I think the only easier LinkedIn URL there could have been like linkedin.com/in/LinkedIn. But
pretty easy to find.
But indeed, you have a great one.
You as well. You take care.
Cheers, my friend.
Talk to you soon.